Have you ever sat in your favorite chair, looked around the room, and felt the silence pressing in a little heavier than usual? Maybe the phone hasn't rung today. Maybe the house that once echoed with voices now feels like it's holding its breath. It's a strange feeling, isn't it? This stillness, this quiet that creeps in little by little, until one day, it just stays. You might not even notice when it starts. First the kids get busy, then a friend stops calling as often. Someone you love passes on, and slowly, the world becomes quieter, not just outside, but inside too. It's not always sad. Sometimes it's peaceful, but other times, it feels like something is missing, like everyone is gone, and you're left sitting in the middle of what used to be. If you've ever felt that way, if you're feeling that way now, I want you to know something. You're not alone in that feeling. So many people, especially in this stage of life, carry this same quiet. But here's the truth, we sometimes forget, when everyone is gone, God remains. That's not just a comforting phrase. It's a lifeline, a promise, a truth that can carry us through the silent years. Those times when the noise of the world has faded and we're left with space to hear something deeper. Let's talk about that today. Not like a lecture or a sermon. Just like two people sitting across from each other, with a warm drink between us, sharing thoughts that matter. I'd like to share a few truths I've learned, or maybe just remembered, in my own quiet seasons. And maybe they'll speak to your heart too. You see, silence doesn't always mean something's wrong, but it does feel strange, doesn't it? We live most of our lives surrounded by sound, by movement, conversations, responsibilities, and then, at some point, the volume starts to lower, and we begin to wonder, has something been lost? I remember a woman I once met at a church gathering. Her name was Donna Teresa. She was well into her 80s, tiny in stature, but her eyes sparkled with something that made you lean in closer when she spoke. She told me, the hardest part isn't the pain, or even the loneliness. It's the silence. It makes you wonder if you're still part of the world. But then she smiled, that knowing kind of smile, and added, it took me a while, but I realized the silence was never empty. I just had to stop filling it with memories and regrets, and let God speak into it. That stayed with me. Because the first truth I want to bring into this quiet conversation is this. Silence doesn't mean abandonment. Just because it's quiet doesn't mean you've been left behind. Sometimes, silence is sacred. Sometimes, it's where God does his best work. Think about it. When was the last time you really heard the wind in the trees, or the slow ticking of the clock, or your own breath while you prayed? These moments, small as they seem, can become windows into something much deeper. God doesn't always shout to get our attention. Often, he waits until everything else is quiet so we can finally hear him. There's a verse that has comforted me in those times. Be still and know that I am God. It doesn't say do more or fix everything. It just says be still. That's not always easy, is it? Being still feels like doing nothing, but it's actually doing something very powerful. It's creating space for God to move. And in that stillness, we're reminded of the second truth. You are not forgotten. No matter who stopped calling, no matter who drifted away, God has not, and will not, forget you. There's a verse in Isaiah that says, can a mother forget her nursing child? Even if she could, I will not forget you. I have engraved you on the palms of my hands. Engraved, not written in pencil, not noted down to be erased. Engraved, permanently etched into the very being of God's presence. That means your name, your story, your laughter, your tears, they are all remembered by the one who made you. It's easy, I know, to feel like life has passed you by. Maybe you walk down the street and see people rushing by, and you wonder if you're invisible now. Maybe you watch your grandchildren grow and realize you're no longer needed the same way you once were. That can ache. That can make you question your value. But please hear this. You are not invisible to God. He sees you completely, not just your age, or your wrinkles, or your quiet house. He sees your heart. He sees your faithfulness. He sees the years you poured into others. And now, in this season, He wants to pour back into you. There's a kind of beauty in this stage of life that we don't talk about enough. A wisdom that comes not from textbooks, but from years of love and loss, mistakes and mercy. And in this quiet, that wisdom begins to speak. And yes, sometimes the silence makes us feel alone. But that brings us to something else I've been thinking about, something Donna Teresa taught me, and something the Psalms remind us again and again. What feels like loneliness can actually become intimacy. I know that may sound strange at first. Loneliness hurts. It can feel like an emptiness that sits beside you at the dinner table or follows you to bed at night. But in those very moments, if you reach for God, not just with words, but with your heart, something begins to shift. Have you ever sat quietly and spoken to God as if He were sitting right there next to you? Not with fancy prayers, just plain talk. Lord, I miss them. I feel tired today. Thank you for the sunshine. It's in those little conversations, those soul whispers, that a new closeness can grow. And it's unlike anything the world can offer. God doesn't need loud choirs or busy churches to draw near. He meets us in our living rooms, at our kitchen tables, on slow walks through the garden. He meets us in the quiet. And when we start to listen, really listen, we discover that the silence has been holding something sacred all along. It's like finding a hidden stream deep in a forest, gentle, constant, faithful. God's presence is like that, always flowing, always near. But you only hear it when you pause long enough, quiet enough, to notice. And maybe that's where we'll pause for now, not to end the conversation, but just to take a breath together. Because there's more I want to share with you. More truths that have helped me through the silent years, and I believe they might help you too. But for now, just sit with this. The silence doesn't mean you've been left. You are not forgotten. And even in the loneliest moments, intimacy with God is closer than you think. Let's keep this conversation going. There's still more to say, and I'm not going anywhere. There's something almost surprising that happens when you begin to let silence become your companion rather than your enemy. At first it can feel heavy, even painful, but with time and intention, it becomes a place where your soul breathes. And it's in that quiet breathing that we often begin to hear what we couldn't hear before. You may not be rushing from one obligation to the next anymore, but that doesn't mean your time has lost its value. Quite the opposite. These quiet years are filled with a different kind of richness. Not the noise of doing, but the depth of being. And that leads us into something that might be hard to accept at first, but holds a powerful truth. Every season has a purpose, even the ones that don't look as productive on the outside. Maybe you're not caring for children anymore. Maybe you're no longer going to work, or planning events, or tending to others the way you used to. But that doesn't mean this season is empty. It simply means it's different. And different can be holy. The Bible says, there is a time for everything. A season for every activity under the heavens. A time to be silent, and a time to speak. Maybe this is your season to be silent. Not silent in your heart, or your worth, or your wisdom. But silent in the way that allows you to truly listen, to rest, to reflect, and to heal. I remember talking once with a man named Pedro. He was a retired carpenter who used to build homes for a living. Now in his 70s, he no longer worked with his hands in the same way, but one day, he said something I never forgot. These days I don't build houses anymore, but I still build peace every morning. When I sit with God and let Him shape me, that's the kind of work that never retires. So even if the phone doesn't ring much, even if the days feel long and the calendar is mostly blank, don't underestimate what God is doing in this season. Your prayers, your thoughts, your moments of surrender and reflection, they are shaping something eternal. There is a purpose in this quiet. And speaking of prayer, that brings us to something that might surprise you. Your prayers still matter. Maybe you've caught yourself thinking, what can I even do now? The truth is, prayer is not a small thing. It's not what we do when we can't do something else. Prayer is the very thing that holds the world together in the unseen places. When you lift someone up in prayer, even if you don't leave the house, even if you whisper their name while folding laundry or lying in bed, heaven hears you. There's a verse that says, "The eyes of the Lord are on the righteous, and his ears are attentive to their prayer." That includes you, right now, exactly as you are. You may not stand at a pulpit, or lead a Bible group, or be in a crowd, but you can reach God's heart from your living room. You can speak hope into your family, protection over your grandchildren, peace into the lives of neighbors and friends. And you may never see the full fruit of those prayers this side of eternity, but one day you will. One day it will all be revealed. Every whispered word, every tearful night, every blessing you sent out through quiet faith. A woman once told me that after her husband passed, she felt useless. Her children lived far away, her strength was fading, and her days felt like they were slipping through her fingers. But then she began writing down names in a little notebook, names of people she would pray for each day. It gave her a rhythm, a sense of mission. That small act turned into a daily conversation with God, and over time, her room, which had once felt like a place of loss, became a sanctuary of intercession. She wasn't preaching or traveling or building anything the world could see, but in heaven, she was moving mountains. So if you felt small lately, or forgotten, or without impact, please remember, your prayers still matter more than you know. And now I want to gently bring something else to your heart. Something that has comforted me again and again. God prepares in the quiet. The world teaches us that movement equals progress, that noise equals life, that the more we do, the more we're worth. But Scripture paints a different picture. God formed the world in darkness before he said, "Let there be light." Jesus spent 30 years in silence before stepping into public ministry. Moses spent 40 years tending sheep before he ever led anyone through a sea. Even Paul spent years in hidden places before he wrote letters that would change the world. What does that tell us? That quiet seasons are not wasted. They are where God prepares, where he refines, where he whispers the next chapter into our spirit. It may not look like much on the outside, but something holy is being shaped inside you. Sometimes the quiet is where God draws the deepest lines of his love on our hearts. Not because we've done something spectacular, but because we've made room for him. When life slows down, when people grow distant, when routines change, you are being invited into a different kind of closeness. One that isn't built on noise or activity, but on trust. A dear friend once told me, "I used to fill every silence with something, music, phone calls, the television, but now, I leave some of it empty on purpose, so I can hear what I never used to hear, the soft presence of God." Isn't that beautiful? The idea that in silence, we are not abandoned, but found. That in loneliness, we are not empty, but open. That in stillness, we are not forgotten, but chosen. There's a kind of strength that comes from embracing the quiet instead of running from it. A peace that doesn't come from having everything figured out, but from knowing who is with you in the unknown. And that kind of peace doesn't shout. It doesn't demand. It simply remains steady and quiet and sure, like a candle that keeps burning when the rest of the world goes dark. So if you're walking through a season that feels like a hallway with closed doors, or a garden waiting for the rain, remember this: God is still working, even when it's quiet. Especially when it's quiet, something sacred is being written in the margins of your life. Maybe you'll look back one day and realize this was the season that gave you the clearest vision of God's face. Not in the crowd, not in the noise, but right there in your quiet living room, in the hush of early morning, in the stillness of an ordinary day. And we're still not done talking. There's more I want to share with you. But for now, just let this rest in your heart, like a gentle hand over yours. reminding you that you are not forgotten. Your season has meaning, and your quiet moments are full of eternal value. Let's keep going together. There's one more part I want to walk with you. Sometimes, when we look back on the years we've lived, there's a quiet wondering that settles in our chest. We ask ourselves if we've done enough, if we've loved well, if we've made a difference. And when life slows down, those questions seem to echo louder than before. But the more I listen, and the more I pray, the more I've come to believe this. The quiet years are not empty, they are sacred ground. They are not the end of our story, but a part of it that God still writes with tenderness and care. We have walked through many thoughts together, you and I, and now, here in this closing moment, I want to speak once more to your heart. The truth is, you were never meant to carry this season alone. You may feel like everyone has gone, but God has remained, not at a distance, but right beside you. And if your heart has grown tired, if your spirit has felt forgotten, may this final breath of our conversation bring comfort and light. You see, in every season, especially the quiet ones, God draws near to the humble and the still. He is not looking for the loud or the busy. He is looking for the open, the willing, the trusting. You may not feel strong right now. That is all right. He does not ask you to be strong for him. He only asks you to let him be strong in you. If you've ever tended to a garden, you'll understand this. There are seasons when everything is blooming, when color and fragrance fill the air, and it's easy to see life. But then come the quieter months, when the earth rests, when the branches are bare, when the garden looks forgotten, but you know something is happening underground. Roots are growing deeper, soil is being renewed, life is preparing to come forth again. Your soul, in these silent years, is not barren. It is being tended in a hidden way. Even in the moments when you feel no one sees you, heaven does. Even when your days feel small, your life still echoes with eternal value. Every prayer, every word of encouragement, every gentle act of kindness, they are seeds. And seeds don't need an audience to grow. They need time. They need care. They need trust. You may not see all the fruit of your life while you are here, but I promise you, one day you will, and it will be more than you ever imagined. God is faithful like that. He does not forget what the world overlooks, so take heart. If the table feels too quiet now, if the photos on the wall bring more tears than smiles some days, let this truth settle gently in you. You are still deeply loved, not just by those who remember you, but by the one who never forgets. The one who walks beside you on the slow days, who holds your thoughts in his hands, who sees your quiet faith and treasures it more than gold. You are not too old for purpose. You are not too late for peace. You are not outside the reach of joy. It is still possible to laugh from the belly, to feel the warmth of connection, to live days that shine with meaning, even in the simplicity of routine. A soft breeze, a cup of tea, a whispered prayer, a memory that brings peace instead of pain. These are holy gifts, and they are still yours to receive. Maybe, just maybe, this season you are in is not a closing, but a sanctuary. A slower, softer place where you can finally hear the heartbeat of God without the noise of the world competing for your attention. If that is true, and I believe it is, then this time is not something to survive, but something to cherish. A time to reconnect with what matters most. A time to forgive where it is needed. A time to rest, to remember, and to rejoice. And if you are feeling alone right now, know this too. You are not the only one walking this road. There are many others who understand exactly what you're feeling, who also sit with quiet rooms and long memories. Maybe they are even watching this video right now, just like you. And maybe, together, we can form something beautiful, even from afar. A community of quiet strength, of faith that still stands, of hearts that still hope. So I want to ask you something. If anything in this conversation touched your heart, would you let us know in the comments below? Even just a few words. A prayer, a thought, a memory. Someone else might read what you write, and feel a little less alone too. And if you know someone who is walking through their own silent season, send this message to them. It might be exactly what they need to hear. Before we finish, I want to leave you with one last picture. Imagine a candle glowing gently in the dark. It does not flicker wildly. It does not make noise, but its light is steady, comforting, beautiful. That is what your presence still is in this world. You are a light. You may not see it the way others do, but you are still shining, still warming the space around you. So hold on to that, and hold on to the one who never left your side. When everyone else fades into the past, when the crowd has quieted and the applause is long gone, God is still there, still present, still speaking, still loving. May these truths stay with you like a soft blanket on a chilly evening. You are not abandoned. You are not forgotten. Your quiet years are not wasted. They are filled with the whispers of a faithful God who remains. With all my heart, I thank you for walking this path with me, and I truly hope you will keep walking it, not in fear, but in faith, not in sadness, but in grace. The best of your soul is not behind you. It is still alive in you, and that is enough. So go gently now, but go knowing, even when everyone else is gone, God remains, and He is enough, always.